having to have processed her work. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to hear what she has to say, um, and see if we can't get things worked out. It looks like she's having a problem logging in. So we'll see if she can get on. Um, yeah, so, um, and for those of you who are following both of my threads, I'm not sure that I'm dividing those onto different platforms yet. I'm going to see if I can have the self-love journey align with the lightworker journey. So we'll see what happens. Live from Giza tomorrow for Lionsgate to talk about hijacking, you know. All right, self-love. Here she is. Fool's Paradise. Coming on in, Summeya. Let's see. Fingers crossed. There you are. Yay. Hi, beautiful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. It's so nice to see your face. And thank
Yes,
you so much for the opportunity
of
to
course.
have this conversation.
I'm really excited.
Yeah, this is my first interview on live. So I'm really excited. And I wanted to bring on, as I told you, like an expert on self love. And it seemed to me, well, from like the exposure that I got about your book, it seemed like that's exactly the content. I mean, perhaps not. So, um, can you tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm 16 years old, and I uh, am in high school, of course, and I decided to write a book based off my experience going through self-hate and, being bullied in middle school to coming to this journey, this beautiful journey of self-love. And I decided, obviously through, different people that suggested, oh, you should, maybe share your experience with others because others can relate. And it's usually like when we think of self-love and we think about people who explain this really important topic, it's usually like elderly people who are, trying to explain this current issue with younger people. And I don't know, I just thought maybe hearing it from a teenager's perspective and sharing my own experience in the very beginning of the book, which, allows the readers to feel a relatability. And yeah, that's basically, yeah. And I obviously, I'm joining this live with my clothing brand that I also created. And I feel like if it weren't for my self-love journey, I would never have the confidence to even, start a small brand online. So yeah, that's
I'm so proud of you. That's amazing. You
thank
know,
you.
that, yeah, I've been thinking a lot about, I'm going to call it the control matrix in our society, that the message is constantly given that you're not enough, you're not worthy, if you don't fit into this box, if you don't do this thing, if you don't. And I think that's why I'm so excited that I'm talking to you, you being a young person. Because as a teacher, I came up with this whole theory, like I really do, and I've also gotten a lot of like, I don't know if you want to call them cosmic downloads, that really it's the young people coming in that haven't been that don't have to do all the clearing,
Mhm.
because you're coming in with like a fresh perspective, and hopefully we'll be able to reframe
Yeah,
um, the the old distortions that we've spent so much time and like ancestrally spent so much time creating.
yeah.
And yeah, so I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so now I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, tell me a little bit about your book. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
So my book is basically a short guidebook, like an extremely short guidebook on self-love, um, as like a whole. Like it's a very broad, general take on self-love. And it's almost the reason I call it a guidebook is because through the chapters, that are, obviously very short. And I purposely made it very short because me, myself, I don't like reading long books. And that's obviously just a personal preference. And I know teenagers as well, reading long books. So I thought making it short, making it simple and easy to understand and being relatable would allow, the readers or my audience to connect more. And yeah, so it's basically, the beginning of the book has my experience with how I dealt with self-love and my struggles. And then by the end of it, there's like action steps for the reader to take if they're trying to, improve their self-love. And it's just a little, yeah, like
It's
that.
like a key. Oh, I love it. I'm totally convinced. See, my theory right here is just coming true that you all are the way showers and guides. And we're also responsible for making space and clearing spaces for you because you're here to heal our world. That's beautiful. Guidebook. I love it. So, okay, here's the question that I have been playing with. What is exactly, like, what is love? What is self-love? These are things that I feel like uh, there's so many. Um, when somebody talks about love, it can translate into a million different things, which sends 6 million crisscrossed, mixed messages, and advertising uses it, media uses it, and all these things. But eventually, it starts giving this message of not enough. Can you talk? And I'm going to take some notes. So, yeah, can you talk about what is love and what is self-love?
Okay, sure. So I actually have my book here, and I thought I'd read out what exactly I wrote,
Ooh,
on like
wait,
my take. Yeah.
first show us your book. Show the book. Do a little promo.
Yeah, so here it is.
Nice.
It's really thin, and
Nice.
then so yeah. So
Easy breezy. Okay, go. I'm ready. This is so
okay,
good.
so love can be known as many things: a feeling, a thought, a person, or the admiration for a thing. All those meanings of love are correct, but there's one kind of love that most people ignore and leave behind as not important, and that is self-love. So, what is self-love? Self-love, it's something you earn to have in your life that becomes a part of you. It's not just a feeling, it's a being within you that sticks with you forever. Self-love is and always has been within you, but you start to lose it as you become older with all these images of so-called, beautiful people everywhere we swipe, look, or think. It's the kind of special love you only have for yourself and nobody else. Only you deserve that love which comes from you. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. I love that part that's about being within you. I love all of it because basically it's really confirming the thinking and the work that I've been doing. And it comes down, again, to the authenticity. And immediately, like, I know what I went through. I went through terrible, terrible times growing up.
Mhm.
I grew up all over the world. So no matter where I went, I was always the outsider. Um, and then, my skin color was another issue. And then, of course, like there were so many reasons that I wasn't supposed to love myself. And then when I moved to the States when I was 14, I'm old, so like there wasn't a whole lot of, and I grew up in Saudi, and there was like no media there. So then when I moved to the States, it was like this onslaught of media telling me I wasn't enough. And I was at that really delicate stage of 14 where at that point, like, there's so much identity building and so much of that kind of stuff. And it was a really confusing moment to find out that everything about me was not enough or not worthy or whatever. And I was going supposedly home, but there I was not, like, there were a million reasons not to. So in this day and age, like, because you guys have media like everywhere, I came out of like my hippie moment of being like this farmer off the grid kind of like I had really cloistered myself for several years. And and then I came out and I went to the Gulf, to like the social media capital of the world, and all of a sudden it was like this onslaught. What is it like for you guys growing up in this day and age? Like, what are the obstacles to self-love in this
Yeah.
environment? Like, it's so much.
Honestly, I feel like the main obstacle would be obviously social media because we all like I can guarantee you every teenager is on like various different social media platforms
For
and
sure.
because of the whole, industry of influencers and um, like these apparently people we're supposed to look up to, who most of them are only sharing their perfect lives or the perfect side of their lives, and most of them usually don't show the other side, which is the relatable side where we can feel like, oh yeah, we do struggle with different things, including self-love, and sometimes we don't feel like we're enough, because I know all influencers are human as well, and they also face self-love and self-hate. So I feel like, yeah, social media would be the most obstacle, the biggest obstacle we go through. Plus, because of all the social media, we then start to, it gets to our thoughts, and then that's another obstacle, which I think is the main one I went through, which was negative self-talk, and that's like the hardest one to deal with because we're always like 24/7, we're talking to ourselves in our head, and our thoughts is what like takes over us. So um, yeah, I feel like all the negative self-talk is what is caused through different means, which one is social media, and yeah.
Yeah, I was having you're really resonating for me right now, because I was thinking about that concept of how all those messages that we're given, we become like the voice of that accuser within our own head, like of not enough. Like, we take over for like all of those things. And, I've been thinking about like, how do we control our social media diet, or make sure we're only following influencers that do teach self-love, or that aren't hyper branded, right? Like that concept of being owned by someone else, which just confirms that you're not loving yourself, that kind of thing. um if you had advice to give, I mean, obviously you wrote a whole book on it, so talk about advice you give. Like, talk about the advice, because I'm starting on this journey, and I'm really and I want, yeah, you give steps, so tell me the steps to follow. I'm really
Sure.
excited.
So I feel like the first, like, foremost step for trying to, get on an improvement for your self-love would definitely be what I just mentioned, which is, starting to become mindful of your thoughts. And it's not an easy thing because we're constantly, unconsciously, thinking different things every moment in our life. So I feel like becoming more mindful of the different thoughts we have, especially the ones that are, negative about ourselves. And it's really sad because we tend to most people tend to discriminate themselves and put themselves down without even knowing what they're doing and the impact it has on ourselves. And so yeah, just becoming more mindful of our thoughts, and doing that will allow us to be more aware of what we're thinking about ourselves and what we're saying about ourselves, because we wouldn't like someone else to be in front of us and say all these things about ourselves that we're saying to ourselves. So, yeah, I think that's my major tip. And after doing that, it automatically we'll start to see ourselves improve so much more with, the way we're feeling towards ourselves and just accepting ourselves for who we are.
So I'm immediately thinking of that concept of bullying, and like, so you're dealing with like a super, just from the nature of like being in school settings or in social settings, and it's so important as a young person to be engaging in those, because our identities come out of those. I mean, I'm really thinking about how I don't want to be as attached to identity anymore. But in terms of like social development and stuff, how did you find this journey transformed like the bullying for you? Did you see like an outer reflection of adjusting your thinking within yourself?
Yeah, so one of the main things I believe in is that whatever you put out into the universe is what you get back. And then also, whatever you think is what you attract. So, whatever you're constantly thinking and saying to yourself is what you're going to receive from everyone else around you. Like, if you're constantly in a negative mood and you're just, oh, today's a bad day, tomorrow's going to be such a worse day, all these just different negative thoughts, is you're literally putting that out into the universe, and then you're going to attract more of that. And I feel like, in relation to what you said about the bullying, um, I feel like because at the time that I did get bullied, I was very much in a negative place, like in my head, right? So because of my state of mind and how low it was, I was only able to see everyone else around me be so negative towards me. And I feel like that's literally the only reason I got bullied, because when I look back at it, the person who bullied me literally had no reason to bully me. Like, there was nothing that was, causing her to, bully me and do all these like silly stuff. So I feel like because the state of mind I was in, and because it was just so toxic, like the way I would talk to myself, I wouldn't even want to look in the mirror. And yeah, I just feel like, yeah, what you said. So your thoughts are what you're gonna see from everyone else around you. So it all
So
starts.
that, yeah, that really connects to my idea of like vibration and the vibration we put out, and how, that being like a frequency in our self messaging, being a frequency. I love that. I'm constantly trying to prove, um, and reprove that it's those vibrations that, um, help us manifest in our lives. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And I'm so glad that you're sharing that thinking with people in your age range. I mean, like quantum field theory and everything supports it. And like the math discoveries that are happening all supports, that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
And so I think it's amazing. I think though, if like I'm thinking about people who are just at the beginning of that journey of when you're sitting at home after a bullying experience or after a really deep, humiliating, awful experience, and you're dealing with those vibes that are so low and so dense and so hard. Like, what advice would you give them when they're in that space, like of releasing like the person that was doing it to them? Like, there's that too, because you're not in isolation, like you're also dealing with the dynamic of there being that mirror reflection of your inner vibe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, when I would come home from school, like this is when I was like what 13 or something, or 12, and I would sit in my room and just be all sad. I don't even remember if I would cry, but probably did. And what I would what most people would do is, reflect on their day and how, the bully did whatever and how embarrassed they felt. And I feel like that's again when the negative self-talk begins, and then that vibration stays with you for God knows how long. So what I started to do unconsciously, which led me to my self-love journey, was starting to realizing I needed an escape. And I know a lot of people talk about this, and there's different forms of that. It could be music, singing, dancing, uh, painting, drawing, writing, poetry. There's so many different ways to escape from that mindset, or like when you're in a negative state, there's so many different ways to escape and let go and stop thinking about reality, basically. So I feel like most people want that escape, and I feel like we're all doing that when we are on social media. We're trying to escape from the reality we're in and go to this whole new reality on our phone. So I would recommend trying to find an escape that works for you, because there's so many different ones, and I feel like that's what helped me the most. And once I, escaped into whatever form I had to, I then started to, feel so much better when I came out of that. a little healing session, and then I would come out and feel so much better. And yeah, I think that's the main tip I have for, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about that, and in a way, it's like alchemy, like all mystical schools have this transmutation property of being able to turn something like something base into gold. But I'm going to take it a step further, because you're talking about the part where, yeah, okay, you're dealing with a base metal, but now you've turned it into an actual self-love thing. There was a yeah, and so I'm trying to figure out, how did you take that next step? Not just from the escaping. Like, I've used several different escapes. Like, and over my lifetime, I'm seeing a question, what was your escape? I've used so many different escapes over my lifetime. And for me, like, I'm old, right? So I've used so many different things. And you can see it as like a toxic thing in like our environment. Um, which can go from like gossip, lots of toxic things, gossip, narcissism, creating like aggressive defense plans, um, which is sort of staying low vibe. But in terms of escaping, I could do reading, but that didn't solve the problem. It was, I would read, and then I'd still have to go back. And it was like reinstating the same reality. You didn't do that. And when I got older and I was still struggling with it, it was like drugs and drinking and sex and stuff like that. Like, it was really easy to fall into. Um, and lots of like really toxic habits. But what you did, there's a step, and it's not just the escape. There's something beyond that.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that alchemy?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
there's actually, I would say, a couple different steps after, you try to escape and come back to reality. What do you do now? And I feel like the one main uh, step that I did put in the book as like a, almost like a workbook kind of exercise was um, affirmations. And I know there's so many different takes on, or opinions on, how effective affirmations can be and can't be. But for me, that's what worked the most. And I feel like you can obviously do, first of all, what affirmations are basically positive statements about yourself or about whatever you want to attract. And writing them down, you know, for example, it could be, I am so much happy. Sorry that it disconnected. Yeah.
It's okay.
So writing down, different positive statements about yourself, and once you write them down, repeating them and thinking, like basically taking those affirmations and replacing them with your negative self-talk that you're constantly giving yourself is what can really change. Because, once you catch yourself thinking so negatively about yourself, what do you do now? You stopped yourself, but then you have to replace those with positive statements about yourself. And you may not actually believe those statements. It may be something like, I'm so confident, and deep down maybe you're not confident and you want to be. But that's where it starts with, like, all these amazing successful people. They didn't say, I'm okay or I'm average. They told themselves, I am the greatest at whatever I'm doing. I am, going to be worldwide. And they kept telling themselves these things in order to actually get there. So it's basically like fake it till you make it. And I feel like, yeah, that's affirmations would be the main one. And there's many different ways to do affirmations. But the main one I put down is writing them down and then repeating them, either like standing in front of a mirror or just saying them to yourself over and over when you replace those negative thoughts.
Okay, so yeah, what I'm hearing you say is that this reprogramming is really important to getting that, raising that vibe. Okay, so that, I feel like that's really great, and I might actually include that in my post now, like having an affirmation of the day. So
Yes.
thank you. That's great. Um, and being really mindful of thoughts and how we program ourselves, maybe. And I'm loving that. So then, how do you become more authentic? Like, how do you know what's really you? You
Mm.
know, like you're doing all of this reprogramming. How do you get down to like the soul level of like, what's me, really?
Yeah, so I think that is completely different journey that everyone has to go through when, and I think we're all still going through it no matter what. Like it's an ongoing journey that never ends where we're trying to find who we truly are and, from the people we want to be around to the things we like to, our purpose in life. And I feel like it's an ongoing journey and being authentic really starts with I feel like you would obviously have a better say on this, but being authentic to me means accepting yourself for who you are and being okay with being weird or being okay with being unique. And I feel like that's what most people struggle with. And that's when we start to see teenagers who are, you know, all trying to be like each other. And we're all trying to, be the
Yeah.
same image teenager and, like the same things when that's fine as well. But it's just being authentic means accepting yourself for being weird. And again, that's another thing with Fool's Paradise is being a fool is the philosophy that I had behind this company, which is accepting yourself for being so weird and being happy with that. And then once you first identify yourself as unique, that automatically puts yourself away from everyone else and you're seen as this different person. And then you you have this world you're living in now where you accept yourself for who you are and you're putting yourself out there as this completely unique person, which everyone is. And then uh, yeah, you just and when you start to accept yourself for this person you are or this person you want to be, you will then automatically see everyone else around you accept you for that person you are. And obviously there will be people who, will judge and stuff like that. But again, it's all whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. So if you truly love yourself for who you are and you're accepting yourself for being this authentic person and, taking off that mask that most people put on in front of other people, you will start to see other people accept you as this authentic person you are. So yeah.
So it's like alignment to your design, like really truly aligning and then just expecting people who align to it. Awesome. Welcome to the team. And people who don't, you
Bye.
know, bye. Bye. Oh, wow. I love it. This is perfect. Um, Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share about like your your message while we're
uh,
on?
I think I would say is just know we're always going to be on that journey, no matter if it's, a self-love journey or a self-discovering journey, like whatever it is, we're all on a journey to finding ourselves and being so authentic, as you said. So I think first of all, accepting that we're always going to be on a journey to find ourselves is where we need to look at. And we need to, accept that we're always growing. We're always going to be growing until the day we die. So just accepting that journey and knowing that all the mistakes you make are okay and they're the reason you are the person you are today. So I think, yeah, that's my main message. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to come on here and just talk to you. It was really nice. Thank you.
I know this has been wonderful. I can't wait. I'm hoping you keep on recording aspects of your journey and continue guiding others. Um, it's so important, I feel, especially having, I've, I've had lots of journeys myself. And when I've strayed, I know it's when I haven't honored my journey or someone else's journey. And it's that I truly honor what you're doing, and I hope you are able to continue honoring yourself and honoring the journey in others. You are a gorgeous, gorgeous little divine mirror, and I thank you so much. It is such a joy.
Thank
And
you
thank
so
you. Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's so perfect. And you have just been an absolute joy. And where can people get your book, by the way? That's super important.
Yeah, so it's available on Amazon and it's also available on Kindle. So, you know, because this whole Corona thing, I don't know if Amazon is shipping everywhere, but it is a
Kindle, though, that's dope, right? Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. I will make sure I put those details in the description. And I look forward to interviewing again. This has been like the best first interview ever.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Love you. See you. Bye.
Bye. Thank
And
you.
thanks, you guys, for tuning in. Okay. So, Sumaya A, Fool's Paradise. Isn't she fab? There's such hope for the future. I'm not kidding you, you guys. It's the young minds that are inventing these amazing things because they don't live in the disgusting boxes that have been constructed. They're gorgeous. All right. I will make sure I put all those details in. And thanks so much. Love you. See you. Bye.